time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. Status quo. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan. Not live on a Thursday, July 18th, 2019. Not live for a good reason. I'm recording this around 3 o'clock Eastern time because I am going to go around 4 o'clock to a protest here in New York City for Eric Garner. Yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of his murder by the hands of a New York City police officer. The day before the anniversary, the Attorney General's office federally announced that they will not be charging NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo, who, of course, if you watch that horrific video from 2014, did an illegal chokehold around Eric Garner, who was a 43-year-old African-American male. And that chokehold, coupled with many other officers pressing down on Garner's chest, caused a fatal asthma attack. So the family, activists, New York City, social justice communities, and just good people have been calling for action, either federal charges, local charges, or at the very least, firing this officer who, thus far, this officer who choked Eric Garner and the other officers who took part, zero punishment. No loss of job, pension, nada. So there will be protests today outside Gracie's mansion. Gracie Mansion is the mansion where Mayor Bill de Blasio lives. I'm hearing whispers that there might be protests for 11 straight days. Don't have that confirmed because Eric Garner, of course, was screaming, "I can't breathe," 11 times. So I'm going to kind of rush this broadcast because I have to sprint to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I will not be running because I just had back surgery. So that's the deal. I'm going to kind of try to get through this as quickly as I can. Not enough hours in the day when you have to do live streams and cover things in the field. Remember, even though this isn't a live stream, you have a checklist. Smash that like button. So right under my ugly face is that thumbs up button. If you're watching on your phone, real quick, X out of the live chat that you're in, press the X button, click that thumbs up button, and then you could go back into the live chat. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream who aren't currently watching. You can become a status quo member right now. Oh, I don't have the graphic. Hold on. Okay, right now, and this is totally not updated because Ty is having computer problems. Right now, we are at 628. So that graphic is wrong. We're at 628 members. You can become a status quo member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. If you've been paying attention, if you're a new YouTube subscriber, because we have been jumping and growing really quickly on YouTube the last few weeks. If you're a new YouTube subscriber, you've been seeing our in the field content. Jen this week has covered Bernie Sanders at a local hospital in Philadelphia, rallying to try and stop that hospital from being closed. It's a hospital that serves low-income people. She was just at Bernie's speech yesterday, his Medicare for All speech, where she interviewed Nina Turner as well as supporters. The Nina Turner interview is already up on the channel. Like I just said, I'm going out to cover the Eric Garner protest. Ty and I are going to Detroit to cover the debate. We are covering things that, as far as I know, no corporate media outlets are covering, and if they are covering it, they're standing in the back. They're not interviewing any human beings, or, frankly, independent media outlets are covering. So you could help us grow very easily and continue being able to fund this kind of, say it with me now, in-the-field journalism. $5 to $10 a month or $179 annually makes a huge, huge difference. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're just under 100 from passing 8,000 Twitter followers. We only started using Twitter aggressively as Status Coup like a month ago, so we're just kind of playing catch up. At Status Coup, I'm at Jordan Chariton. Subscribe to our podcast. That's bit.ly/Status Coup podcast. And you can join our email list. Go to statuscoup.com. You'll see a little, enter your email kind of thing. We will not bomb you with emails. By the way, this is a super chat. So even though I'm not live, it's a super chat. And Jen or I will answer your super chats, questions, comments, concerns in the super chat. So super chat is another way we draw in revenue. And finally, we just passed 65,000 on our GoFundMe. So now we're in the final stretch, less than 20,000 to go to hit that 85,000. It's not going to happen overnight, but we will do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Andrea Paperno, $25 was the last donation. Kelly Elaine, always donating $20, and Carol Edwards put us over the top to get us to 65,000. Thank you, Carol, Patrick, Jeffrey, Christine, Kelly, all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whatever floats your boat, super chat or GoFundMe. Just so you know, YouTube takes 30% of the super chat. So, put a gun to my head. If it's not an inconvenience, we prefer GoFundMe, but we'll take super chat too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember, smash that like button. So, I was thinking about, I'm very pressed for time because I have to go to cover this protest. And the reason I'm not covering the protest live is I've been having some phone problems where my phone is overheating, for some, I guess because it's really hot out, and shutting down. So I didn't want to do the live stream, and then it goes dead because of the heat. So Ty is moving here at the end of July, so I'm not going to have to go live on my phone. He will be my cameraman here in New York. So there's a lot to cover, but I got to start with Trump. I don't even want to preface it that I don't cover Trump that much. I don't, but I don't really know how I ignore this. Jen and I were texting last night, and to be honest with you, maybe it's a little white privilege speaking. We all have it if you're a white person, and you just got to acknowledge it. But that was the first time, honestly, obviously if you're living under a rock, I'll just show you. Here is what Donald Trump, the President of the United States, was doing last night.
Medic screens.
So when I saw that, I've not been living under a rock. I've seen Donald Trump call Mexicans rapists and drug lords. I've seen him refer to my African American in the crowd. I've seen him talk about a judge of Mexican descent saying he can't be the judge on a case and rule fairly related to Donald Trump. Obviously, I've seen his comments in the past towards women, towards black people. I've seen it all. And I covered a lot of his rallies. And to me, regardless of whatever you think of Hillary Clinton, the lock her up chants were very, just like a hyena pack, ready to pounce, But I texted Jen and I said last night, watching that was the first time I've ever viscerally felt scared. Like, this is something different. To me, I always view Trump in the lens of kind of a circus animal, like a clown. I understand his threats, that he's been doing terrible things on policy and obviously stoking racial fears and Islamophobia and LGBT bigotry and all these things. But I've never looked and been scared as an American so strongly as I was last night. When you see And and you could follow my tweets, follow my reporting since I was even at 2016. I always strayed away from comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, to the Nazis and things like that, because I think in general that is thrown around too much. You know, people call George W. Bush Hitler, and people were calling Trump Hitler when I didn't see directly, strong enough comparisons. But I think what we saw last night, and make no mistake about it, Donald Trump knew exactly what they were saying, send her home, referring to Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who was born in Somalia, immigrated here at 12 years old, I believe. She's an American citizen. He knew exactly what they were saying, and he shut up and let them say it. And today, he's moonwalking, and this is what Donald Trump does. He either incites or participates in racist, bigoted things, and then he pretend denounces it. It's kind of like a wink to the crowd, like, no, I'm with you, but I gotta, when I'm not at the rally, I gotta pretend to be not racist. It's kind of like what he did with Obama during the campaign, where after launching onto the political scene and rising as strongly as he did, he became a political, he got on the map because of birtherism, but then while a candidate, he did a press conference and very quickly said, Barack Obama was born in the United States, period, and moved on. This is what Trump does. But last night, when I watched that, I mean, obviously I'm not old enough to have lived during the 1930s or 40s, but I saw remnants of, Nazi Germany. And some of you might not agree with that comparison, but I don't know, what would you compare that to? You have citizens screaming with hate in their eyes, with vitriol, send her back, send her back. This is what Adolf Hitler and the Nazis did. They made Jews the other. They made Jews animals. They made Jews the people that are taking our German pride away and threatening our country and wanting to destroy everything we've built as Germans. That's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. And it scared me. It really did. I'm not going to lie to you. I said to Jen, this man cannot be reelected. I'm a journalist, so I'm not going to be knocking on doors to make sure he doesn't get reelected. But to me, what we're starting to see with this man is the beginnings of when authoritarian fascism turns to murderous fascism. Because make no mistake about it, we might think that we live in a different time and there's social media and there's too many of us and that would never happen, but it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like Nazi Germany with trains going to horrible, horrible death camps. It could be basically violence starts erupting and you have his supporters. All it takes is for one of the people at these rallies or one of the people watching online to take what they're hearing and seeing and frankly attempt to take a Congresswoman Ilhan's life, Omar's life, or another Muslim American's life, or a refugee's life. That's all it takes. There's a very slippery slope between just vile rhetoric and violence. And I think we're over that precipice now. And I don't know the answer. I don't think Joe Biden is the answer to defeat Donald Trump. I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it. I think it's going to be a repeat of Hillary Clinton if he's the nominee. I don't think Kamala Harris is the answer. I definitely don't think Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the answer. I think Warren would have a better chance, but I don't think she would defeat Donald Trump. To me, and I'm not, this is not as a Bernie Sanders supporter. This is looking at all the data, all the way back to 2016, but also today. Reading the polls that show Bernie Sanders is the only one pulling away some of that non-college educated, high school graduates without a college degree, white working class. Bernie Sanders does very well among those people. Those are the voters that put Donald Trump in office. I see Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump in head-to-head polls. I see Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And I saw Bernie Sanders make the argument, finally, 2 days ago in an interview with the Amazon Washington Post, saying, how's the Midwest going to react when, it starts getting out that Mr. Biden voted for all these trade deals like NAFTA and all this. But to me, putting aside 2020, this is beyond an election. This is beyond an election. And I'm not going to borrow from Joe Biden and say this is about the soul of our country, because the soul of our country has always been racist. It's never not been racist. So, recapturing the soul of America, that's just a BS term. The soul of America has always been racist. Just because we had a black president doesn't mean anything. Well, it's progress, but it's not like, the magic elixir. To me, there's racist rhetoric and there's racist actions. Policy is racist. And we've seen some of the most racist policy from both Democrats and Republicans. I give you the crime bill, which was racist. You don't have to be a conscious racist as a lawmaker to execute things that are racist. Some of the worst racism out there is not conscious, but subconscious, right? So the bottom line is, to me, just getting rid of Trump, he's unleashed something in this country that makes people who have an irrational fear, he's unleashed something where it's now okay to let that out. You're not alone. And that fear of the other is the classic playbook of authoritarians and fascists. So in Germany, Italy, many other countries in world history. And it's dangerous. And we have to denounce it. I think more than anyone, critically cover corporate Democrats, because I think they're helping to embolden Trump. I think they're the reason Trump got in office. But this isn't about corporate Democrats right now. Trump, right now, is worse than any corporate Democrat. I'm not talking about voting for a corporate Democrat or anything like that. I'm saying Trump is a greater threat. In my view, what I'm seeing at those rallies, it's a very, very slippery slope to a very, very dark place where violence is going to start to happen. And that is why I believe it is playing with fire for the Democratic Party to be pushing like a Joe Biden, who, if you're not into politics, if you have no loyalty to the establishment, corporate Democrats, or progressives, put it aside, you just look at the facts objectively, okay? You want to say Joe Biden is up in the polls right now, so what do you mean he would have no chance? Hillary Clinton was also up in the polls. Every poll said Donald Trump could not win the Republican nomination. They were all wrong. Every poll said Hillary Clinton was going to crush Donald Trump in the general election. They were all wrong. Every poll showed Bernie Sanders was beating Donald Trump head to head at a much wider gap than Hillary Clinton was. They pushed Hillary Clinton nonetheless. So the bottom line is, Joe Biden is leading in the polls 8 months before we've even had the first caucus or primary. But if you look at the candidate, if you look at his record, at his qualities, at what he's proposing, it is not just the same as Hillary Clinton, but worse. He is running, I covered his foreign policy speech. I was all the way in the back. I was not sitting. I couldn't even see what he was saying. I was just listening. I don't mean to borrow from Trump, but it was some of the lowest energy I've heard at a campaign rally. He just doesn't have the it that you need. And for people saying, well, Jordan, it's early, and he's a lot more middle-class friendly than Hillary Clinton. How is that? Because I can tell you, I was there in those Midwest states. It was NAFTA. The corporate media doesn't want to read these polls because it goes against their Russia narrative, that Russia decided the election. Every single state in the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin, top 2 issues: trade, immigration. Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton was not in office for NAFTA. Her husband pushed it through. She wasn't a senator then. Joe Biden pushed NAFTA. He voted for it. Joe Biden still to this day is for the TPP. Crime bill. Not exactly. You think that's going to fix the problem of 5% less African Americans coming out? 5% less African Americans came out for Hillary Clinton versus Obama in 2012. You think Joe Biden pushing the crime bill, which ushered in the era of mass incarceration, is going to bring out a record number of African Americans? I don't think so. I don't think so. But the bottom line is, some of you might disagree. Some of you might say, Jordan, it's just a ploy to get attention and to scare people. You're buying in. All I can tell you, I'm not a practicing Jew. Like, I'm not religious. I go to family dinner for the holidays, but I don't practice like on my own. But I am Jewish. If you look at the chants at these rallies and him just standing back, allowing it, and silence is complicity, he could have very easily said, no. She's bad for America, but she's an American citizen. Stop with that chant. If you look at that rally, and then you look at old footage of Nazi rallies, tell me the difference. There is a fascist in the White House. I have previously not gone as far to compare him to Hitler, but what I saw last night is very comparable. And we need to look at it straight on as is. And that's why I think it is imperative, whether it's independent journalists, progressive activists, whatever, to be saying iceberg right ahead. I know we have this funny graphic, but I truly mean it. I mean iceberg right ahead. If either of those two are the nominee, Trump will get reelected. Record this video, put it in your pipe and smoke it. I said it. Mayor Pete, forget it. He's not even going to be on the boat. He's not going to be the nominee. Elizabeth Warren, frankly, she's, to me, better than Biden or Harris, but I don't see her beating Trump. I just don't. I think the only way you beat Donald Trump is to have the largest, most clear contrast possible, and I think that's Bernie Sanders. So, to wrap that up, this is scary. Like, put aside politics, put aside whether we hate the corporate Democrats. I do. But to me, this goes beyond just corruption. He's inciting a race war. And, it's scary. And I also think, and I tweeted this last night, and remember, if you have not pressed the like button, press the like button. It's right under this video. Press the thumbs up button. If you're watching on your mobile phone, you just have to temporarily X out of the live chat and press that thumbs up button. I tweeted this last night, but what I'm seeing from him now with these comments towards the 4 Congresswoman and this rally last night hasn't been mentioned much, but for those of you paying attention, Donald Trump has started to quite often joke about serving more than 2 terms. You don't think what you're starting to see here, if this man is reelected, Donald Trump would not try and change the Constitution to serve more than 2 terms? And you don't think with a conservative majority on that Supreme Court, he could be successful? Whether he's successful or not, do you really think he wouldn't try? I'm talking brass knuckles here. This man is dropping little tea leaves about what his intentions are, and we need to take it seriously. Before I move on to the next topic, Jen Dyes, co-founder of Status Quo, was in D.C. yesterday for Bernie Sanders' big Medicare for All speech. There, she interviewed supporters of Bernie, as well as one of Bernie Sanders' campaign co-chairs, Nina Turner. Of course, she's been rallying for Bernie all the way back to 2016, doing God's work all across the country now. This is the kind of in-the-field journalism that we're trying to do over and over and over again. Give a voice to Bernie Sanders voters. We also want to get out in the field and cover Tulsi's campaign. We also want to get out in the field and go to some Biden events and some Harris events and challenge some people. We need you to do it, baby. Statusquo.com/join. Like I said in the beginning, we're now at 628. This graphic is a little outdated. 628 members. Our goal for the end of this month is 700. So we have, 13 days to do it. We got to get 72 more of you to sign on the dotted line. That's statusquo.com/join. Let's take a look at Jen's interview with Nina Turner.
Jen Dyes here with Status Quo. We have the wonderful Senator Nina Turner again. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Great. And Senator Bernie Sanders just gave a fantastic, vibrant speech about Medicare for All, and specifically about taking a pledge to not accept big pharma money, health insurance money, and he's called upon others to do the same. There's a lot of propaganda out there. What do you think the chances are of someone like a Kamala Harris or a former Vice President Joe Biden accepting this pledge?
I hope they all accept the pledge. It's very important to let the American people know whose side you're on. I hope all 100 Democratic candidates running in 2020 presidential election that they all, I'm joking, but the 20-something, we got to have a little levity. But I'm hoping that all of the Democratic candidates will take the senator up on the pledge to only not take more than $250, because as he laid out, if you are taking more than that from this industry, then you need to explain to the American people why. We know too often that elected officials are bought and sold. I mean, that happens on the state level and federal level and local levels of government. And what Senator Bernie Sanders is saying is let the people know whose side you're on. Either you're on the side of the people or you are not. So come on, he dropped the mic on that one.
He sure did. One of the issues that's come out recently is that former Vice President Joe Biden has seemingly used GOP talking points against Medicare for All. How do we combat this misinformation, especially coming from who is currently in the top of the Democratic presidential field?
I think part of it is what Senator Sanders did right now today. He gave a speech about what Medicare for All is, why it is morally important, also why it is important from an economic perspective as well. And we have a decision to make in this country. As laid out when Social Security and Medicare, or Medicare in particular, for 65 years and older was laid out as a vision, many people at that time did not think that it could happen, but it happened. And really what Senator Bernie Sanders is talking about is expanding that from not just 65 and over, but to all everybody in this country, so that they will have health care, that health care should not be commodified. He gave the example of Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia, where we just came from, standing side by side with our sisters and brothers, our nurses, and also our other labor leaders whose members work at the hospital, and also patients like Maria, who has cancer, but standing strong and bold to say that Medicare for All is the way to go, and that hospitals should not be able to be purchased by vulture capitalists so that then they can bankrupt said hospital and then sell it off to the highest bidder to build condominiums. Meanwhile, back in the city of Philadelphia and other places in the country, because we have a shortage of hospitals, or hospitals are closing all over the country, in rural areas and also in our urban areas, and it is immoral in every single way. But economically, it is problematic because citizens of this country will not have hospitals to go to. So it is important that in this presidential debate on the Democratic side, that the Democratic candidates make it very, very clear whose side that they're on. And if you are on the side of Medicare for All, then you are on the side of the people.
Absolutely. And I was at the Hahnemann Hospital event the other day. I guess that was Monday, 2 days ago. And I spoke with doctors and nurses there. And overwhelmingly, they supported Medicare for All. And overwhelmingly, they said if Medicare for All had been in place, then Hahnemann wouldn't be closing right now.
Right. And I got a chance to talk to a medical student, and also got a chance to talk to a doctor. And she has practiced in public hospitals in LA, and she talked about how emergency rooms are being used, as we know, for primary care. She also laid out this, and this is very important for people to understand, that we are already paying for other people's health care, whether we understand it or not. When folks can't pay, we are paying. So why not pay now on the front end in terms of being proactive on the preventative side, rather than when people get into an emergency? Better return on our investment, and also we would pay less money. It would cost this country less, and for us as individuals, we would pay less. The average family in this country will save money with a Medicare for All type program. But more importantly, it is just absolutely the morally right thing to do, to not leave a sister or a brother behind to languish because they don't have health care. Health care is a right, and but for the grace of God, any of us could have a calamity that happens, that whereby a medical condition could wipe out our family. All of our wealth could be wiped out. Everything that we've worked for could be wiped out. We could lose our home if we're privileged enough to own one, just from one major medical incident. This is not the way healthcare should be meted out in the United States of America, the wealthiest country on the face of the earth. So it is Medicare for All right now.
And Medicare for All is overwhelmingly popular across demographics, across different political ideologies. How we combat, though, and Fez Shakir, Bernie's campaign manager, was actually on CNN this morning, and they were trying to pull out different statistics, kind of lying with statistics, saying, oh, it's not that popular, it's socialist. How do you combat the propaganda in the media?
You know, Medicare for All is popular. The overwhelming majority of the American public support it. They want to see government take more of a role in providing health care for everybody in this country. So we're not going to go with the hype. We're going to go with the people. And the people in this country already, they see what is happening with the commodification of healthcare, and they do understand that this is wrong. And so we're just going to keep on pushing. Ultimately, it's not what talking heads on TV have to say about it. It is what the American people have to say about it. And they will get the final say starting next year when they start to vote about a vision. You know, even the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about of all of the inequities, you know, in this country, or injustices. He said the inequity in healthcare is one of the cruelest, and I'm paraphrasing him on that. He also talked about how we have socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. It is time for us to step up in the 21st century and declare that healthcare is a right, both morally and economically. It gives people freedom. Furthermore, even President Obama, who the author of the Affordable Care Act, which we call Obamacare, has recently said that we can and should have universal health care in the United States of America. So there is absolutely no reason on God's green earth that all Democrats running for the presidency of the United States of America should not only support it, but be in the fight with Senator Bernie Sanders to make sure that we guarantee health care as a right, both morally and economically, in the United States of America. President Nelson Mandela once said it always seems impossible until it is done. Well, baby, just like we got Social Security in this country, just like we have Medicare right now for 65 and older, we will have Medicare for all. If we can go to the moon, we can have Medicare for all.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Great work by Jen Dyes, who, by the way, so you know, went up to Washington, D.C. yesterday, sick as a dog. She wasn't feeling well. She's not feeling well today. I told her, hey, if you got to sit this one out, that's fine. It's a long campaign. You know, get rest. She was a trooper and went anyway because the topic is so important, Medicare for all. So thank you to Jen for playing hurt, which a lot of you don't know, but oftentimes when we're out in the field, we're either tired, sick, or something. So thank you, Jen. And I'll repeat it again. Let me just update this for a second. There we go. So now we're at 628 members as of me recording this. Sorry if I'm hammering this home all the time, but hey, if we're not going to advocate for ourselves, who is? You could help Status Coup grow and stay out covering these stories in the field. I'm about to go cover a protest, again, covering the decision not to charge NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo in the murder of Eric Garner. The protest will be outside New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's mansion to get him to fire the officer. Jen has been in D.C. twice this week covering a Medicare for All rally, D.C. and Philadelphia, covering both the Medicare for All rally as well as Bernie Sanders rallying with hospital workers. Marcus is out in the field covering things for us. Ty is moving here in New York specifically for the reason so I and Ty together can cover things on a day-to-day basis more in the field. Status Coup does not exist to, sit comfortably in our studio and bloviate. Not that there's anything wrong with, commentators who don't go out and report. There's a place for all of it. But our brand and our DNA is to be out with the people, but it's expensive. I'm not going to lie, it's expensive. So that's why we're growing in the only way we know how to do it and stay independent and ethical, and that's from the bottom up, grassroots. So every single time, like I'll tell you, when I wake up in the morning and I look to see if we got any new members, when I see we got new members, I'm still in the Christmas stage, Santa dropped off gifts, even though I'm a Jew and that's all BS. But if you don't know, Santa's not real. Sorry if I spoiled the surprise. But we're still in that kind of every member counts. So every sign up we get is super, super helpful. And to tell you the truth, the more members we get, it's a lot more attractive when as we're trying to get larger funding. So you could become a member again, $5 a month, $10 a month, $179 annually. when Ty moves here, we're going to be doing a lot more members content, exclusive content just for members. You already have some up on the site under members content, but you'll be getting a lot more when Ty is with me in the same city. So statusquo.com/join. And if you don't have $5 to $10 a month, we get it. Obviously, we don't want to make your situation worse if you're living paycheck to paycheck or don't know if you're going to keep the roof over your head. Just watch, share, like. That's all we ask. So, moving on. Because there's no 24/7 progressive news outlet out there, hopefully Status Quo one day is that, I usually have CNN or MSNBC on. I say better to know the enemy up close. So I had CNN on yesterday, and I just watched this segment, and I was just completely flabbergasted. And credit to Fez Shakir, who's Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. Frankly, it's the best I've seen in 2020 so far of Bernie Sanders' campaign. I think Fez did a better job, frankly, than Bernie has been doing in some of these TV interviews. I think he was more forceful. I think he had the right answers. And I think he was basically pointing out, you're full of, I'm trying not to get demonetized, but full of shpoop. Full of shit. Demonetized, swear jar. So let's take a look at this segment, which again, is just, there's so many things wrong with it. But here is Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, Fez Shakir, with CNN news anchor Jim Sciutto. Here we go.
Joining us now to discuss all this is Faz Shakir. He's Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign manager. Good morning, Faz. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
So first, I want to get to where the American public is, and even the Democratic voting base on this issue of Medicare for all, but also the Affordable Care Act. A recent poll from the Kaiser Family Foundation, it found the ACA, as it's known, is viewed favorably by 46% of the country, unfavorable by 40%. But this is even more telling. Among Democrats, the law is even more popular. 79% view it favorably, only 12% regard it unfavorably. So what does that tell you about Senator Sanders' plan? Does he have the people behind him on this?
Well, what the same poll showed, Jim, is that Medicare for all is quite popular with the American people and with Democrats. And there's a reason why, because you have 32 million people plus who don't have insurance right now. And as good as the Affordable Care Act was, there are still tens of millions of people who are underinsured.
But isn't the thing, Faz, sorry to be fair, isn't it that folks like the idea of it, but when they're asked more specific questions, for instance, on employee-based healthcare, they may say, I like Medicare for all, but if they're told, oh, your employee plan, that's gone, unions, et cetera, they're like, wait a second, I'm not sure how I feel. I mean, that's the issue, isn't it?
This requires education. We're prepared to have that debate. That's why Bernie Sanders is delivering the speech today, because under Medicare for all, you have the most popular health care program in America. That is called Medicare. And what you're doing is expanding that. So right now it's available to people 65 and older. Now it would be expanded to 55 and older in the first year, and then 45 and older in the second year, 35 and older in the third year, and so on. And I do believe, and the senator believes, that if you go about that approach, it is both feasible and very popular, and I think people are going to react to having greater comfort and security in their lives, knowing that when they switch jobs, they got health care there available for them.
Faz, one of the things that struck me actually most, and one of the most important parts of the last debate, the first Democratic debate, is when Sanders was asked and pressed, will taxes for middle-class Americans go up under your plan? And he said yes. But, in his view, they're going to get better care, more care, broader coverage. Listen to part of this fascinating interview that our colleague Kyung La did with Senator Kamala Harris about this issue of taxes when it comes to coverage. Here it is.
My vision of Medicare will not be about a middle-class tax hike. So I am not prepared to do that at all.
What is your response to Senator Harris? Do you think that's possible? Could she provide the same coverage that Senator Sanders is proposing without the tax hike that he says is inevitable?
If what Senator Harris is saying is that middle-class families will not pay more under Medicare for all because their tax burdens will go down, because right now many of them are paying a corporate tax right now. to get paying high premiums, high copays, high deductibles. In exchange for paying a little bit more in taxes, that goes away. Middle-class families will save money. If that's what she's saying, she is right about that. And I think that this is the option that people have. Right now, they are fighting with health insurers. They know that the administrative burdens that they deal with every day, small businesses deal with these administrative burdens, they are painful. And what you're going to offer people is a simplified approach that they can rest easy knowing that they've got health care for themselves and their families. They can focus on their jobs and their lives.
That's fine.
No, go ahead.
We want to talk a little bit about socialism too, and we both have a few questions for you on socialism, because we heard, it was on this program yesterday, that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said this is the new Democratic Socialist majority, which maybe you guys embraced, right, because of the position of Senator Sanders as a socialist. Is that helpful, though, to the Democratic Party overall, do you guys think?
Well, so let me just say about Donald Trump, who's attacking in a very racist way for members of...
Really just tight on time and asking you about
I just want to say,
labeling.
what he's doing is attacking them because their policies, which is free tuition at public colleges and universities, canceling student debt, Medicare for all. Instead of having that debate about policies, he wants to take it into a racist place. What I'm saying is those policies are quite popular, and instead of having that debate on policies, he's trying to elide that debate. We think that this is the popular approach to go. Americans support this across the board.
But the numbers don't support it, actually. I mean, there's an ABC News Washington Post poll that found that Trump would beat a candidate perceived as a socialist by 49% to 43%, whereas other candidates not perceived as socialists would beat him. So I'm just curious, are you convinced you have the public behind you?
Jim, there's a guy with the name Bernie Sanders, and I hope you will take a look at Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump and look at those head-to-head numbers, and then report back to me what you find, Jim, because I think you'll find in the 25 of the last 25 polls, Bernie Sanders is beating Donald Trump head-to-head in every poll out there. Can you challenge me on that?
Though, well, I could challenge you on the position, because we're talking about positions that are his signature issues, which don't have the backing of the majority of Democratic voters. And of course, those issues are going to be discussed, at length in the coming months.
And what do you think, Jim, that most people know about Bernie Sanders? What do you think they know about him? He ran for president before, and head-to-head in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, he's crushing Donald Trump. How do you explain that to me, Jim?
Well, listen, we'll let the voters decide. I'm just saying on the issues that you're making your signature issues, the polls show they don't back those particular issues. And as voters learn about those issues, that might be factored into their decision. We're going to keep up the conversation because we got a lot of time till November 2020.
Come back, Baz. Come back soon, okay?
Sorry to put you through the whole thing, but I thought it was important to show you the whole thing. So, first of all, the Mail anchor in particular, Jim Sciutto, was basically using pharmaceutical industry talking points masqueraded as journalism in that whole thing. And I don't even know really where to start. And remember, if you haven't pressed the like button on this video yet, smash that thumbs up button. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this. This is a super chat, so if you're feeling super, let us know. So, first of all, when he says that, he uses one poll to signify Trump would be generic socialist. That doesn't mean anything. A generic socialist is not on the ballot, right? Bernie Sanders is on the ballot. And if you actually want to look up socialists, Bernie Sanders isn't even proposing real socialism. He's not talking about getting rid of the entire capitalist system. So Jim Sciutto, because they're trying to push a narrative, he's pushing one poll in particular. Well, I could show you other polls. I mean, here's a poll. Where are you? Here's a poll from Gallup from last year. You see, on the left is capitalism, on the right is socialism. Well, socialism's popularity keeps going up, and capitalism's popularity keeps going down to the point last year, this is Gallup, which is a serious polling outlet. Nobody, calls Gallup fake news unless you're a Trump supporter. Socialism's 10 points higher. So why is it that people on CNN like Jim Sciutto are taking one poll that shows Trump beating a generic socialist, which again, doesn't really mean anything, and he doesn't show other polls showing socialism is very popular? I know the answer, but we have to push it and say, why is that, CNN? And by the way, I'm putting status quo at risk because right now we're being considered for getting media credentials for the second debate, which CNN is hosting. But I'm not going to just not do segments and call out CNN when they're just brazenly lying. And if we don't get credentialed, if they deny us, that shows you all you need to know. If you can't critically call out CNN for lies, so be it. We're not gonna like be silent so we could get credentials. So another thing that was totally absurd during this interview, he says, well, how do you answer that the majority of Bernie's policies, don't have support among the Democratic Party? That's just not true. Also known as a lie. What is he talking about? There was a poll last year, Medicare for All, 70% approval overall, 80% among Democratic Party voters, 50% among Republican voters. 80% among Democratic Party voters. Another poll recently showed between people who strongly favor Medicare for All and somewhat favor Medicare for All, 79% of Democrats. Strongly or somewhat. Combine it, that's 79%. Free public college. Poll after poll shows majority support. Fight for $15 minimum wage. Poll after poll shows majority support. By the way, the Democratic Party in Congress today, the House, voted for a $15 minimum wage. Not so brave when you know it's not going to pass, but progress, I guess. They should have done it when they had both houses of Congress. I wonder why. They do it when there's no chance of it passing because it will get denied in the Senate and, of course, vetoed by the president. Green New Deal, polling majority support. I mean, I could go down the list. Wealth tax, majority support. By the way, a wealth tax is not Elizabeth Warren's idea. A lot of this I have a plan stuff is kind of borrowed plans from Bernie Sanders with a couple more sentences. I'm not saying she doesn't have good plans, but this whole notion that, Elizabeth Warren has reinvented the wheel is not exactly true. Assist to Colin Tooley on the great graphic. So he's just lying. He's lying. There's no other way to say this. His policies don't have majority support. Based on a poll that said Trump and a generic socialist? I mean, when you cherry pick certain polls and leave out other polls, that's lying by omission. So a real journalist would have said, this poll shows Trump beating a generic socialist, but socialism in general is more favorable. Here's another poll. Or, why is Bernie Sanders' campaign manager the one that has to point out 25 out of the last 25 polls, Bernie Sanders is defeating Donald Trump head-to-head and not even close? You don't think CNN knows that? You don't think their producers could get those polls? You don't think CNN producers and this anchor could get that Bernie Sanders is winning in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania right now over Donald Trump? So you're saying the majority of Democrats don't support your policies, then why is he beating Trump in all of these polls? Makes no sense. And Fez, to his credit, forcefully said, basically without saying, you're fucking full of shit, he said, you're fucking full of shit. So I'm very proud to say Mr. Shudo hit back at me because after I tweeted out the segment, which went crazy viral, it got over 1,000 retweets, so thank you on the Twitter. I called him out, and he said, not true, my friend. I don't know, did he send me a friend request on Facebook? I don't think we're friends. I mean, I'm not wishing ill will on you, but you ain't my BFF, pal. Let's chill out. Not true, my friend. Here's the poll I cited showing a candidate seen as a socialist, as Sanders self-identified, losing to Trump. Moreover, I noted that surveys consistently show folks like their employer-sponsored plans. As I tweeted back at him, the same poll you cited Trump beating a generic socialist, in that same poll, Bernie beats him by 6. I wonder why you didn't mention. So why is it if you're citing one poll, you cite generic, Trump beats a generic socialist to imply Bernie Sanders has no chance. But in the same exact poll, Bernie Sanders is beating him by 6. Leaving that out is lying. I also said other polls show socialism is more popular than capitalism. Why no mention? And as I just told you, Medicare for All has majority support. He says, I presented contradictory information That's not a lie. My job is not to present solely the information that supports a guest's views. It's to challenge them. Save the lie charge for the many actual lies out there. Oh my God. First of all, you presented contradictory information. You're right. Because like I just said, you're citing Trump beating a generic socialist, but in that same poll that you cite that, Bernie is beating Trump. Do you see how those two are contradictory? So you're right, but for the wrong reasons. Secondly, what a ridiculous rationalization. My job is not to present solely the information that supports a guest's views. Your job is to present the facts. Your job is to present the facts. So it is, facts also include context. So when you just put up a poll to try and frame, because this is called framing. I worked in corporate media at Fox and MSNBC. I have seen it, and I've been in the meetings that talk about this. How do we frame this? So they are framing that Bernie Sanders, because socialism is unpopular in America. It's not, because I just showed you another poll that shows it's on the rise from Gallup. He didn't include this poll. He included one from the Washington Post. And by the way, you have to actually look inside the polls. How do they ask the questions? Because that's actually important. How questions are worded sometimes elicit specific responses. So when he said most employees enjoy their private health insurance, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? When he shows a poll that show more people support Obamacare than don't support it, what does that have to do with anything? People can support Obamacare, but also support going further. That's what that means. If you have, I think it was 48% support Obamacare, well, a recent poll shows 55% support Medicare for all. So maybe two things are true. People support Obamacare, but if there's a better option, Medicare for all, they also support that. Well, he's making it seem like the two are, very distant things from each other. And he's lying and manufacturing consent to his audience by saying, what did he say? The information my job is not to present solely the information that supports the guest's views. This isn't a guest's views. This is polling data. This isn't Fez's views that Bernie Sanders would beat Donald Trump. This isn't, people on social media's views. These are polls. 25 of them dating back to 2016. There's not one poll that has showed Trump defeating Bernie Sanders nationwide. In some states, yes, Texas, other states, but not nationwide. So when you say it's not to just show the candidate's views, it's not a view, it's the facts, it's the polling data, you fucking idiot. Oh. Getting hot and bothered. So when he says save the lie charge for the many actual lies out there, no, sir, you did lie, because at the end of that interview, you said his policies don't have majority support in the Democratic Party. They do. And I put, if you want to look at the Twitter thread, I put a link to each policy that Bernie is proposing and majority support for those policies. So the rest is just, I said, how is it contradictory information when the very poll you cited contradicts your claim that Americans would vote for Trump over a socialist? Bernie beats him by 6 in the same poll. Your job is to present all the information, not bits and pieces. You also inaccurately stated Sanders' policies don't have support among the majority of Americans. As I've shown you, that's simply factually wrong. And if you're an actual journalist, you should correct it on air. I also said that is a lie. Maybe you didn't intend it, but it was inaccurate. Go down the list of issues he has championed. They have majority support. And when you cherry pick one poll, when other polls show socialism's popularity is rising, that's leaving out important context for your audience. So when you say you're challenging him, that's fine. Although strange that your colleagues aren't challenging Kamala Harris's absurd statements, she will do Medicare for all with no tax increases. But when you intentionally leave out information for your audience, that is Sanders beating Trump in poll after poll, beating him in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and then inaccurately stating that his policies don't have majority support, Democratic support. Sorry, dude, that ain't journalism. You should correct it on air, unless you have different data that shows free public college, Green New Deal, $15 minimum wage, and Medicare for all don't have majority support. Boom, drop the mic. And, whatever. I don't really care that it's great. CNN anchor got back to me, like, wonderful. Means they're paying attention. But it's not about me versus a CNN anchor. This kind of misinformation happens all day long, 7 days a week. On CNN, on MSNBC, in the New York Times, in the Washington Post. They're oozing with bias. My bias is out here. I support Bernie Sanders personally. As I've always said, it does not affect the facts I report. If I find out tomorrow Bernie Sanders is money laundering, I will be the first to report it. If I find out tomorrow he is taking dirty money when he says he's not, I will report it. But I can't invent facts. I don't have any information to support any of those things. So what I believe personally, I'm a progressive, informs the type of stories I cover, the types of stories I want to go out and cover in the field. But factually, my reporting and my commentary is based on facts. Whereas these folks pretend to be neutral, but any idiot could watch this and see they are oozing with disdain for not only Bernie Sanders, but what he represents. And that is because they are fake newsmen. They are working for a multi-billion-dollar corporate parent called AT&T. And AT&T and Comcast, which owns NBC and MSNBC, and Amazon, which owns Washington Post, and very, very rich people who own the New York Times, do not want socialism. They don't want regulated capitalism. They don't want anything that will end their gravy train. And that's what Bernie Sanders represents. And that's why you see segments like that. So credit to Fez Shakir. One minor note, and I don't know if Bernie Sanders' campaign watches me. I doubt it. I hate to borrow from Karl Rove, who's just awful. But I think there's something that Bernie Sanders' campaign could learn from Karl Rove. Because from what I've seen, they're not explaining in their television interviews Medicare for All correctly. Bring a chalkboard, right? Bring a board where you write with marker on it. Okay? Left side. Here is the tax increases you will see under a Medicare for All proposal. Okay? Let's say it's an extra $8,000 a year. Just spitballing. I don't have the number off the top of my head. You're going to pay an extra $8,000 a year. On the right side is what you and your family pay right now for health care. Let's say that's $13,000 a year. So $8,000 a year in new taxes, $13,000 in healthcare costs from what your employee takes out of your paycheck, to deductibles, to copays, to co-insurance, all that stuff. $13,000 gone like the wind. $10,000 you owe in new taxes. $8,000 you owe in new taxes. 13 gone, 8 remains. That is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's $5,000 in savings. They're not explaining that correctly. It's being explained that, well, you save more in healthcare costs. No. You save more, period. As an individual and a family, you're saving $5,000, period. So you're not, when they say you're raising taxes on the middle class, no, you're not. Because I think Fez and Jeff Weaver explained it right. You're already paying taxes. It's called deductibles, co-insurance, copays. So you're not raising, yes, you're going to get a new tax for Medicare for All, but what is removed that you don't owe, you're not raising anyone's taxes. In reality, you're cutting what people owe. And I don't know why. Bernie Sanders, frankly, I've seen him explain it correctly once in that interview with the Washington Post, where he used $10,000 example and $15,000, $10,000 in new taxes, $15,000. I don't see him doing it on national television, and I don't see his campaign people do it. Bring a chalkboard, say, hey, listen, CNN guy or MSNBC gal, I know you're busy, so I brought a little demonstration so you can understand it. It's not complicated. And I think because they're not explaining it that way, people are getting lost. And a lot of people are visual. I'm a visual learner. Auditorily, I'm not so great. So people say a graphic or something, whatever. And I'm not a campaign strategist. I'm just telling you, when I hear Bernie Sanders in these interviews explain it, I don't think it's coming across the right way. It's coming across the right way on the intent behind it, that it's an embarrassment. We don't have Medicare for all, and as a country, it's a human right. All that is great. But the dollars and cents, I don't think is coming across properly. So For whatever my 2 cents is worth, that's what I think. So I wish I had more time because I really, really want to do Kamala Harris's ridiculous interview with CNN where they barely challenged her. She's putting out this fairy dust that her Medicare for All plan, which I don't even get what her plan is. She signed on to Bernie Sanders' plan in the Senate, which of course she didn't mean. If Kamala Harris was always for Medicare for All, why, like Roseanne DeMauro, National Nurses United said, where was she when California was about to pass it? She was running for senator of California. She wasn't running on Medicare for All. She didn't do jack shit when one house passed it and then the House of Representatives in California blocked it. So Kamala Harris is what I call a faux-gressive. She's a Johnny-come-lately progressive, and we don't need it. But I'm going to do that tomorrow because I got to run. I'm going to go cover right now the protest at outside Mayor Bill de Blasio's mansion. I hope I make it in time. I'm trying to do so much in so little time. That's why you should become a Status Quo member. We're at 628 members right now. We gotta get to 700 by the end of this month. It's a big stretch. I don't know if we're going to do it, but I believe in you. If you've been on the fence, statusquo.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. I will see you tomorrow, and I will end with our latest promo video.
Show up or you're not doing enough.
Power to the people!
Unless you have credentials to come in here, you don't belong in here.
Once upon a time, there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land.
Use your voice!
Status
We have at the border our concentration camps.
Status quo.
Stand for something or die in the morning.
Status quo.
You're a racist bigot.
Status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people.
I don't think the Democratic Party is doing what it needs to do.
The people were empowered to share their truth.
Tulsi Gabbard is a threat to the establishment.
No longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statusquo.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statusquo.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.